Hello, everybody, and welcome to Timeshares Solutions or Surrender. I'm Nick Pallavito. I will not be your host today, but we do have the host with the most who knows a lot about timeshares, more than I do. And we're going to bring her in right now, a lot of experience in this particular industry. And you've heard about this on the network because this does get a lot of top ratings right now on the Pod TV network. So without further ado, let's bring in Irene Parker. Irene, welcome to your show.
Hi, Nick. It's good to see you again. It's been a couple of weeks since we had you on the show. And there's a law firm that published an article just yesterday that Nick might be interested in. The law firm is Berry and Berry. And they came up with a article that timeshares and boy toys are persistent themes in security clearance denials. And I appreciate them calling attention to it, but it felt like they were sort of blaming, and boy toys meaning when you buy a boat, your two best days are the days you buy the boat and the day you sell the boat. So since our show last week, before we introduce our guests, we have three guests. We have Diana in Kentucky, we have Judy in Missouri, and Sandra in California. All three lost their spouses, as did our host, Kim. But since last week, I always like to go over a few of the more pertinent calls that came in since our last show. Number one, hi Kim, we did have a husband and wife, both with a security clearance. And we had a retired police sergeant who is caring for two adopted grandsons that have fetal alcohol syndrome. They own two timeshares with Diamond Resorts and with Hyatt. Hilton has bought Diamond. And the one good thing I could always say about Diamond Resorts is transitions worked very well. After going through the whole process and told you're eligible, all of a sudden both companies said that they had paused their exit program. So there is no responsible exit. The only choice is to default or pay fees for the rest of your life for a product that you can't use. On the positive side, we had someone who reported that they had resolved their $295,000 dispute, and they almost signed up with a law firm that was going to charge them $25,000. We try to honor the non-disclosure agreement, so we will not mention the company. And then finally, we have a Wyndham husband and wife, a young couple. We talk a lot about the elderly, but as I've said before, it's even worse in some ways for younger people. Not only will he not be able to rent a place they wanted to rent, they actually said they're going to delay having children because of this debt. And he was told that the timeshare was just like an asset that would appreciate in value and that it could be rented. We have an upcoming guest that was sold more points to rent, and now he's been issued a cease and desist letter, as has our first guest today. Now, I'd like to, one by one, bring all of us on stage at the same time because I think it's really good for each of us to hear each other's experiences. So
I want to bring up something. One, congratulations. We are on show 16. Since the first show, we have had success, so you're doing a great job. You're my hero. But I just want to point out something. Nobody does the due diligence for the timeshare mortgages that they issue you or the lending to even show proof that you could even afford it, like in this case with this husband and wife. When you go get a real mortgage in real life for real property, they prove, you spend 30 days proving that you can, afford it. But this isn't even real property. You get 1 week or 2 weeks in some points, and you can't live in it. So there needs to be something put in place to ensure some better due diligence so that people are not getting screwed out of getting a real place to live in But let's talk to some of your guests today. That we've got a common theme here of widows.
Let's go in reverse order. Let's first bring Diana from Kentucky, one of my former states. I used to live in Bowling Green, Kentucky. I love Kentucky. And Diana has purchased from Wyndham. Every Halloween, I write an article called The Heir Scare. And this is what Diana is going to be explaining, how despite her husband's terminal cancer, they were threatened and bought more points that have now placed Diana in a situation where she may have to default. Let's go ahead and bring Sandra on, our prior guest. If we can reintroduce Sandra, who's not feeling well today, and she has shared her story before. So I've asked her to be here to just support Diana and Judy. And then when we're wrapping up the show, we're going to give an update on Sandra's situation, which she has so far been ignored by Wyndham. So we're going to start, though, with Judy from Missouri, my home state. And Judy is again, everyone on today's show, except me, has lost a spouse. There isn't anything that would make, male or female, anyone more vulnerable than losing your spouse. Now, a few weeks ago, we had Gary Hardin on the show, and he was told that if he bought more points, he could rent them out. And he looked into it and realized that that's not feasible. We can have him on again, because he's going to support someone who purchased more points from Wyndham and then had his account issued a cease and desist letter accusing him of commercial activity. So Judy, who is just trying to get out from underneath this, today we're concerned with Blue Green's action, but we're even more concerned with Sell My Timeshare Now. So Judy, if you could just start by telling us when your husband passed away, when you contacted Sell My Timeshare Now. I know there was some confusion in the beginning, but you ended up with ads to sell. Before you begin, I just want to say that Blue Green points, according to the experts that I've talked to, sell for around 10 cents per point. And you have 100,000 points. So go ahead and just share with us how this mess got started.
Well, like you said, my husband and I, over about 20 years, 100,000 points with Blue Green. And the reason we bought extra was they told us that we could rent it to help pay for our maintenance fees. That was part of it. Fast forward to 2021, March 31st, we got up that morning, a normal morning, spoke with my husband at breakfast and everything, and we both went our ways. And I got a call from the hospital, and he'd had a massive stroke, and he passed away the next day. So needless to say, I was in a lot of shock. And as the days wore on, I was staring at the walls and looking at my checkbook and thinking, how am I going to survive without his pension and, without all the extra income that he provided? And I looked into selling my timeshares, and I called several different ones, but I ended up talking with Sell My Timeshare Now. And my statement to them, the person that I spoke with, was, I don't know what I'm doing, and I need to get out from underneath this, and I hope you will treat me like you would treat your mother or your grandmother. And oh yes. Well, by all means. Well, $10,000 later, they have my ads listed. And fast forward to 2023, this summer, and I'd had really no offers at all. There'd been a few that had supposedly looked at it, but weren't interested.
But you had, what price had you listed?
I asked him, I said, what price should I list? Well, we can't tell you that. And I said, well, is $1 out? Is that reasonable? Oh, I think that would be a good starting point. And so we listed it as $1. Well, over the time up until this point, I've lowered it to 75 cents, 50 cents, and now it's at 45 cents. And somehow each time I lower it, you see a nibble, but then there's no interest. You know, they've changed their mind. So.
And I introduced you to the Blue-Green Advocacy, Blue-Green Advocates for Members and Blue-Green Timeshare Hostages Facebook groups, and put you in touch with someone that volunteers to put buyers and sellers together of Blue-Green points. What price did they say to list it for?
Between 10 and maybe as high as 30 cents, but unlikely that I would get it at 30 cents a point for them.
And the Blue-Green Timeshare Hostages Facebook group that has just been displayed, this was started in 2011, and it was called Blue-Green Timeshare Class Actions, and they asked me to be an admin, and I suggested the name change because class actions don't work that well for timeshare, because liabilities or damages, as Nick has told me before, are not uniform. So then, you know, you would think that that would be bad enough. Now, I will say that there's the Blue-Green Advocates for Members. So I will say that Sell My Timeshare Now in the past has been helpful in working with people. So we always suggest you file with the Florida Attorney General. I said, let's give them some time. Now, I believe you were, and I did send them what we're going to talk about today and invited them to either chat or come on the show at a follow-up show. But where do you stand before we go into the next two events that just went from bad to worse to disaster? Where do you stand with your communication with Sell My Timeshare Now?
Well, I spoke with numerous people and finally got to I can't remember her title, but anyway, she started working with us, and it sounded like it was positive in the respect that at least she wasn't saying, oh no, we can't do anything for you. And then we spoke with her last week, and she says, well, I've turned this over to a lawyer now. You're going to have to deal with him now and try and solve this. So the lawyer is to call us this afternoon at 3 or after 3 my time. So that's where we are with that scenario.
Okay, and then your account is now suspended, correct? So tell us how that happened.
Well, when the timeshares didn't sell, and I called the person back and I said, you know, it just seems like they're not, you know, moving. And they said, well, you know, and I guess I added in, I said, I'm really getting strapped with these maintenance fees. I said, I'm dipping into my savings, and I really, it's scaring me. And I laid awake at night worrying about it. And this guy says, well, let me refer you to our maintenance protection program and maintenance fee protection program. And I said, well, what is that? And they said, well, they will give you money for your maintenance fees in accordance to how many points you have. And I said, okay. And anyway, to the tune of $10,800 more, I went into the maintenance protection program. Well, I didn't I kept saying, I don't understand this. And his response was, it's okay, I'll take care of it. And I got a couple of emails that said that I had rented timeshare or time at Blue Green Resorts. And I called him and I said, I don't understand. And he says, oh, don't worry about it. It's okay, I'll take care of it. And again, I had said to this gentleman, I said, please treat me like you would your mother or your grandmother. Well, here I am. So anyway, what happened was Blue Green said that I was trying to commercialize my properties, and they have locked all my points out. And I have, between saved points and annual points, I have 122,000 points that are sitting there that I can't use because they're locked out.
And I'm sure you can't sell them either. Right now, it would be a nightmare to try and sell them. Well, you would think that this would be bad enough, but what really sent me through the roof was what they attempted to. I will go ahead and call it extortion. You said they wanted $44,000 for what?
Okay. Then I said, okay, I have got to get rid of these points because they set this maintenance protection fee up with what my annual maintenance fees were 4 years ago. And every year they've gone up. So although they were giving me some money a couple of times, it wasn't enough to cover. So I said, I've got to sell them. Oh, well, we have a realty company and we'll refer you to them and they can help you set these up. So the guy calls me and he says, we've got to check in to see whether or not we can sell your points. And he called me back and he said, oh, yes, we can sell your points. And he said, this sounds awful, but he says it'll cost you $44,000 to sell your points. And I'm like, I mean, it knocked the wind out of me. And I said, 44,000. And he said, well, we'll give you some credit for the fact that you're in Sell My Timeshare. And we'll give you some credit because they're Blue Green. And we'll bring it down to $23,500 that it would cost you to sell your timeshare. And in the meantime, I had been encouraged to call Blue Green themselves to see if they would help me get out of it. And they would help me get out of it at a time in like a year and a half of my maintenance fees, which would figure out to be $15,000 versus $23,500. And then I told the other guy at the realty company, I said, this is what Blue Green says. Well, the problem with Blue Green, they'll probably drag their feet and you'll have to pay maybe 1 or 2 more years of maintenance fees before they will actually close it out. But if you sign with us, we guarantee that we will, you won't have to pay any more maintenance fees.
And 2 questions just came in. So one of them was, how long did you and your husband own the timeshare, own the points, buy the points? I should say be members rather than owners.
We started buying points in 2004 and our last purchase was in 2018.
And you've paid maintenance fees faithfully for 20 years. And
yes.
Someone also just said, didn't you just pay $10,000? The $10,000 was for 4 ads. So about $2,500 a piece for the ads. Then you paid the maintenance fee program, but they basically paid that money back, but it didn't absorb the cost of all the fees. But the Strategis Realty, they said that they were going to get you out of the contract or they were going to sell the points for you.
They were going to get me out of the contract.
Yeah. So and if they're a realty firm, I don't know how they would do that other than selling the points.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what they were going to do with them. I truthfully don't know the answer to that one, Irene.
Yeah, a tragedy. Now, I'm going to go ahead. I'd like for you to stay on the stage with us,
Okay.
and we want to bring Diana to the forefront if we can. And I also want to make a point, no pun intended, that a lot of these things you cannot determine by reading the contract. You, my contract, in the case of Judy, as you're buying over a period of 20 years, there's nothing in the contract. I know my contract said you can sell your points. We will not assist you. And Judy had told me that she hadn't called Blue Green because she had heard that they don't work with you. So I don't know how things would have turned out if she would have talked to Blue Green first. We'll never know. But the other thing that every Halloween, I usually write an article called The Heir Scare, with agents practicing the unauthorized practice of law, advising that if you don't do this or that, your kids are going to have to inherit. So I forgot to start with what I usually start with Judy, and thank you to the person bringing it up. And here we have destination timeshare. Is this? Yes, all the timeshares were paid in full, which is why she would have been eligible. Judy would have been eligible for Blue Green's deed back program, but a year and a half's maintenance fees of $15,000 is quite steep. And what's really incredible is two people told them that Blue Green just advised them to default. One was Ashley, with the 5-year-old that had 12 doctors, and then someone else I introduced her to, the Blue Green representative said, oh, just default. It'll take about a year. So Diana, how did you get started with Wyndham now? We're switching back to Wyndham, and Sandra's listening carefully because she's, waiting not patiently for someone from Wyndham to contact her since Memorial Day week. The department is called Wyndham Cares, and based on how Sandra has been treated, I think it needs to be changed to Wyndham Doesn't Care, because she's one step from being homeless. But we're going to tell us how this all came about, and we're sorry of the loss of your husband as well. And you're going to tell, you shared something with me that I think is one of the most caustic and revolting statements I've ever heard. And that's saying a lot from a sales agent. So go ahead, let us know how you got here.
Okay. Well, initially we purchased from Wyndham in 2003, Sevierville, 78,000 points. And then 2012, we purchased additional points, which were deeded to Fairfield Resorts. And fast forward to 2022, we were in Florida, and they told us that we shouldn't have deeded property. You should have just all points, Club Wyndham Access points. Our heirs would inherit. The woman was from Fairfield, so my husband felt somewhat comfortable in that she had been with the company from the ground up. We still walked away with the 2 deeds. We thought they were going to trade them. So then again, we're 2023 in Nashville, and the sales rep said that the 84,000 points didn't satisfy the fact our children would not inherit, and so they took the deeded Sevierville. They didn't take Fairfield. They said that was to settle in 14 days, which happens to be after the fact of, contract. You can't get out of the contract. So like I say, my husband was on chemo. He was diagnosed in November of 2022, died in August of 23.
Let me stop you a minute to catch back, get the chronology again. So as you shared with me earlier, you had 2 deeded weeks you bought in 2003, 2012. You probably used those and enjoyed them. Your third purchase was May of 2022. This was before your husband was diagnosed with cancer. And even then, what the primary reason to purchase was because of them saying your heirs would inherit if it was a
Correct.
deed?
Correct.
That's correct. Okay, now, first of all, that all 50 states have laws that allow an heir to disclaim an inheritance. I'm aware of 2 resorts that will, I'm told, an attorney told me they will never foreclose, hoping that your children will not know that they have to disclaim it. In every state is different. You have to speak to a probate or whoever is settling your estate. In New York, I know it's 9 months from the date of death. So, you went ahead and you purchased more points. In 2022, you purchased 84,000 additional points for about 17,000, was it?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, and then, so that was May of 2022, and now November of 22, your husband was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, all right. So now the date you gave me for the 4th presentation, which is a year later from the first
Right.
Air Scare purchase after his diagnosis. And this is where it gets really, don't listen before going to bed at night. Go ahead.
Right. He said the only way we could exit and the children not inherit it is if we were to buy additional points. That the 84,000 points we had purchased the year before did not satisfy it. He said we would have paid or needed to have paid an additional $400 a month. And I said, nowhere was that stated, and that was not in our contract.
So after the purchase that where they were supposed to take back your deeds on that 3rd purchase, they did not take back the deeds?
No, and we thought that was a trade, and I didn't realize till we got a special assessment, for the Fairfield property that had taken place. So then
that would have been at the end of the year. Then you had maintenance fees for the 84,000 points plus the 2 deeds.
Right.
Okay, and then the cancer diagnosis, and now, okay, I'm back with you in May of 2023.
Okay, so then he took the 84,000 we had just purchased in Florida the year before, which were Club Wyndham access points, and then rebundled everything and sold us back 138,000 points. And he took the deeded Sevierville, so that went away. They told us, like I said, they were going to settle the Fairfield in 14 days, and that never happened. So the whole point of the thing was not to have deeded property, correct? So we're still walking away with points and the deed. And they also told us we could not exit unless we had Club Wyndham access. And when I called Wyndham, they said, you can't exit. I said, what do you mean? They said, you have something called Wyndham Asset Management, something or other. In other words, they had purchased it from a third party and repackaged it and sold it as a timeshare. So, I can exit.
Well, was that you had a loan? Now, before you had no loan on, this Destination Timeshares is asking again. Did you take out a loan for the 3rd purchase?
The third, no, we tapped into our savings, money we had invested.
Okay, and then, okay, so then the 4th purchase, did you take out a loan for that purchase?
No, I'm paying 12.99 interest rate right now.
Right.
Yeah, my financial advisor said, this thing can't sustain itself. I need for it to go away.
And you do, unlike Sandra, you have heard from someone that has reached out from Wyndham?
Yes, I'm working with someone now.
And what is the status with that? Do you have a time scheduled to talk?
They were to have a meeting and there were some glitches and the meeting got rescheduled. So it's supposed to be next week.
Okay. And then, so are you considering defaulting if it can't be worked out?
Yes.
Yes, okay. And yeah, because you have now one thing is important to understand, things changed, but I attended a trial, all 5 days of a trial where I heard Wyndham's lead witness testify that if you do default, they do not pursue a deficiency judgment. This is so important. I think even if we've talked about it on a prior show, it's important because the attorney we had on the show before, Attorney Mike Finn, said no other product allows this. Whereas if you default on a $300,000 home and the bank sells it for $350,000, they owe you some money. But a timeshare, because it's worthless, if it's a $20,000 timeshare and they buy it back for $1, they can turn around tomorrow and sue for the deficiency judgment, basically doubling their money if they can collect. And I've heard that Hilton Grand Vacation has done this, Holiday Inn has done this, I believe Westgate has done this, but Wyndham does not do that. Now, your credit score can drop up to 200 points. And again, for older people, sometimes we're set. Our house is paid in full. Are you as concerned about your credit score as the young couple that I mentioned at the beginning of the show that are actually delaying having children now?
No, because, I don't plan on going anywhere for a while. So hopefully, things are okay. Nobody knows what tomorrow holds, but,
Yes, and when Destination Timeshare mentioned Blue Green's right of first refusal, they take back almost everything with market resale prices. But the problem is those prices are around 10 cents to a point. And Judy, I think you said the high value on it, what might be, if you're lucky, 30 cents per point.
Right.
So, but now it's just a mess because your account is suspended. Now, Diana, what really set me off was the question the Wyndham sales agent asked you about whether you were Egyptian.
Right.
Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, we're sitting there, I don't know, like I say, he's been there all day, right? And you're tired and he's talking all this money. And I said, that's a lot of money. And his response was, are you Egyptian? And I said, what are you talking about? What are you saying? He goes, well, you can't take your money with you, and then I said, well, my husband has cancer. I said, it's terminal. He said, well, I could get killed in a car wreck tomorrow.
Oh.
And like I said, our maintenance was supposed to be 198, and I pushed him and I pressed him and I even asked him the same question multiple times, which, because your head's spinning, and he would say, you've already asked me that. And I would say, and ask him again, is it 198? And he said, yes. Well, it's never been 198 because they didn't take the Fairfield Harbor deed, which they kept saying, you need to have Club Wyndham access, not deeded property. I still have a deeded property.
And none of that was true anyway. Now, and then the contracts used to say, older contracts would say that your heirs, your personal representatives are liable for the contract. I spoke with a reviewer at the Florida Attorney General's office, and they said they really can't enforce that because the heirs did not sign the contract. But it's still not as simple as it sounds. You really have to consult with an attorney when it comes to timeshare. One thing that was shocking to me is someone out west had inherited a Florida timeshare, and to probate it, the attorney was going to charge them $3,000. I'm like, for a timeshare that's worthless. And so I reached out to attorney Mike Finn has generously donated some time when we have a legal question. I said, $3,000 to probate this? He said, well, that's a little low. We probably would charge a little bit more. So, and again, reading your contract would not have helped, because now the contracts, most of them that I've been informed, do not say anything about heirs. So reading your contract wouldn't help you. Obviously, the contract rescission period isn't going to help you. So, and we had that almighty oral representation clause where no one realizes they acknowledged that it was buried in your contract fine print. I did not rely on the sales aid on oral representations, sometimes called the non-disclosure clause. And what we want to lobby for, Kim always talks about changing the laws, is that that disclosure should be at or before the presentation. They either send you an email confirming, or they give you a little appointment card. All they would have to do is put on the bottom of that, I do not rely on oral representations, but they don't want you to know that. Now, before we run out of time, I'd like to go ahead and go over once again what happened to Sandra. And we always want to promote members helping members. So the fact that 3 of you now are timeshare disaster buddies, there's nothing like a common cause or combat to bring people together. And Sandra was on our show before, a couple of weeks ago, and I will briefly summarize what happened to her, and then she can give us the status, which is kind of a disaster right now because Wyndham is just completely ignoring her. But Sandra owned at Worldmark by Wyndham. She checked in, and they told her that it's travel and leisure now, so we do not have any information on you. We have to enter new information. And Sandra, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but about halfway through, they asked if they could run a credit report, and you said, absolutely not. I have no permanent home because my husband, who is a Korean War veteran, we had to sell our house when he had cancer. And Sandra just popped off. She's in a car and she's not feeling well today. Here she's back again. And so what contract was there to review if she just thought they were entering information to bring her account up to date? And yet she walked out of there owing $12,000 and now cannot rent or buy a place to live. She's afraid to default. And she started in February reaching out to Wyndham, and beginning the middle of May 14th, I believe, or even a little bit earlier, she and I have been on the phone with Wyndham 3 times. And it's a vicious circle. Kimberly listened into one call and said that she could hear the music in her sleep that night. And you go to this Wyndham doesn't care department, and you have to start all over and explain, the situation. And they say, you have been escalated to Alyssa King, and she will call you in 5 to 7 days. That was the week of May 27. Then that went by. And then I think June 3rd, we called again and we had to start over with someone else. I lost it when that person who, after taking 15 minutes to explain it again, said, she will call you in another 5 to 7 days. So we're in 5 business days since that conversation. And then that agent wanted to sign off with, have a wonderful day. I mean, Sandra is one step from being homeless. She's sick. She's practically living in her car. So Sandra, I didn't want you not feeling well, but can you just tell us how you're feeling right now, what's going on with your life.
Oh dear, we can't hear her.
Oh, we can't hear you. Yeah, okay. So, your camera.
Your camera looks great.
Yeah, your camera looks great, but we can't hear you. You have to allow the camera. Oh, well, put her on
I'm
off
gonna
to
try
the
to
side.
fix her. Hold on.
Maybe you can do a banner saying, "Please allow your camera." Oh, that's too bad. Yeah, she's still
Can
not.
you tell the rest of her story?
Yeah, well, okay, so where we're at with it is we're still waiting for that 5 to 7 days. She did receive one email from Alyssa King who said, and that's why I wanted to bring Sandra on the show, so make sure I had this straight. But I believe last Friday she did send Sandra an email and said, "Could you please email me back with a time to talk?" And Sandra sent her 2 or 3 emails that day and still never heard back. So,
And am I correct in saying that she had spoke with someone and when they assigned Alyssa to her, and that back then they said that someone would be contacting her by May 14th, and nothing happened. And then that's when, you guys decided, well, let's get together a little bit and start making some phone calls, and we'll do this.
No, I think what they said on May 14th was someone will call you that this will be, I remember now, we talked to someone named Derek who was very nice, and I said the same thing Judy said, please treat Sandra as you would if it was your mom or grandma. And he was very nice, and he said that he was going to send her an email. He didn't send it that day, so we called the next day and talked to Melody. And Melody, and then Derek did send it the next day. We can't fault him for being one day late, but Melody did send us an email while Sandra was on the phone with her so she could make sure that she got it, but she required a written report. Well, Sandra is in no position to do a written report unless she doesn't have a scanner. And so I helped her compose her thoughts. And the problem was she didn't know how to attach a document or copy and paste it into an email. So she drove from library to library. She then got somebody from the library to attach it, but it went to the first person, not to Melody. And it wasn't until a family member called me at 10 o'clock at night and we were able to get that written report to Wyndham. Now,
Right.
if we think on all this and we hear people saying, as they said on Andrew's Bowling Green Advocates for Members, just use the timeshare or be quiet. Well, or people saying, "Oh, you should have done due diligence." Your contract doesn't say anything about these topics. They don't say anything. And Diana, you did ultimately speak with a probate lawyer, right?
Yes. And he
what did
told
he
me,
say?
he said our children do not have to inherit it. They can disclaim it. And
have you had a chance to explain this with Wyndham yet, or has your correspondence just been back and forth with emails?
I have written them 3 letters, also the Attorney General in Tennessee, and then the woman that I'm speaking with knows, what my probate attorney told me.
And have you had a response from the Tennessee Attorney General?
They just said after the 3rd time that, I needed to consult a lawyer, but I'm trying to, as you are, promote self-advocacy, because, lawyers cost even more money. So, Yeah.
Well, and then by not qualifying that statement, they're causing more harm than good, because it's been my experience that an attorney that has no timeshare experience does more harm than good. So here, the developers, ARDA has a responsible exit website where two of there's 14 boxes. I think 3 of them are Wyndham. One is Hyatt, which is owned by Marriott, and then one is Diamond Resorts, and both Hyatt and Diamond have paused their exit programs. So, the developers are saying that everything is fine in timeshare, and it's out of control. And we just had on the Diamond Advocacy Facebook group, someone just posted they're actually at a presentation, and they were told that if they don't upgrade to Hilton, if they do upgrade to Hilton, then Hilton will buy back their timeshare. So we just need, I just wish there was more we could do to have people record these conversations in states where it's legal to do so. So,
well, I'm going to point out something. I know that there's something to be said about the legalities of recording a conversation, but nothing says you can't record it. Everything just says whether you can use it or not. So record your conversations just to back yourself up, just so that you can transcribe your own events and what really happened. Because in the end, I don't care whether they will use it or not. It still supports the truth. So I would just say record the conversations. They don't say it's illegal to record it. It's illegal to use it. Or it's not, they don't allow it to be used.
Or it's inadmissible in court.
You can use it with your attorney and he can figure out what to do with it. Nothing says you can't post it. But, always say that is it okay that I record this? Or ask, are you recording this? I do that every time. Are you recording this? No. Well, is it okay if I do? No. Well, then we're not going to talk. And that's what somebody had mentioned the other day on your show, Irene. They said, ask if you can record it. And if they say you can't, just leave. If you're engaging in a business contract with someone and they don't want it recorded, there's a problem. There is a problem.
Well, it's easy to say, but in the heat of the battle, and you've been there yourself, Kim.
Oh, I know. I know.
With the tag team approach that I want to leave. Okay, well, I just need to bring my manager in to go over things to make sure that I did everything right. So just hold on. And sometimes you're waiting 20 minutes for the manager to come in again to wear you down. And we also.
I'm going to just say this very bluntly. Any organization that drags you in on your vacation, and granted, you probably bought it at a discount or are sitting in that meeting for that reason, or they'll tell you, well, you're not going to keep your room if you don't at least do your 90 minutes. We'll have to charge you more, which, I've heard those before. But in 90 minutes precisely, leave. Just say, it's my vacation, it's my time. Add up your time. What is your time worth to you? Majority of us work 40 to 60 hours a week. This is our time off. And if you're being forced to sit in a meeting that is, eventually twisting your arm to buy something that is going to cost you your life savings and your children's life savings, which, we're going to really have to sit down and explain, how do children inherit this debt? And why is it legal when your children had nothing to do with it? I mean,
it's part of your estate, whether it's a timeshare or if it's a house. If you have a deeded timeshare, and it's still a deed, and so it's part of the estate. So as long as the heir can disclaim it, then they don't have to inherit it. But John Oliver did that video with 6 million views, and he had a flow chart or an organizational chart that if one heir disclaims it, it passes to the next heir. So it's really the Blue Green Timeshare Hostages Facebook group have that Eagles song, "You can check out, but you can never leave." And that's why, in some ways, and so some points are non-deeded, some points are deeded. And also it's very important to understand the distinction between defaulting on a timeshare loan and defaulting on a credit card, because the credit card companies are much more aggressive. Next week, I have asked prior guest Mark, a wrestling referee, where they purchased Hilton Grand Vacations for reasons saying if they didn't, this or that would happen. I'll have to review what that's all about. But they charged $23,000 to American Express, and they received a subpoena in the mail. And I need to find out the name of the Minnesota debt collection lawyer that they called, because God bless him, he told them, see if you can negotiate this on your own. So, when people send me their report, I usually have 10 to 50 questions to really understand what's going on and get the chronology. So they followed up with the American Express. It had been sent to their law firm, and the $23,000 they were able to negotiate it on their own down to $10,000, which is still a bitter pill, but it's better than going not addressing it, and then they could go ahead and get a judgment, and then they can put a lien on your personal property. So there's been a huge debate on, I believe it was the Vacation Village Facebook group and it wouldn't hurt to get Nick's opinion on this. I don't think he's with us today, but whether defaulting on maintenance fees, does it hurt your credit score or doesn't it? Well, one person posted, one person said it doesn't.
Is it legal?
It does. It did it for one person. Another person that defaulted on the same timeshare Vacation Village, it went down 100 points. But, as attorney Mike Finn said on our show, a 100-point drop in your credit score is not as bad as having to pay maintenance fees for the rest of your life on a product that you're not going to use again.
Unless you're trying to get a refi on your mortgage or buy a house or rent an apartment because you needed somewhere to live because your life fell apart and everything's falling apart around you, that 100 points can be make or break of what you end up paying too. And it could cost you more. A lot of times they add more points to your interest rate if your credit scores are low. So, I think that they're given too much leverage for something that's not even real property. Think about it. It's not even real property you bought. It's vacation owner's interest. That's it. Vacation owner's interest. Look at your deed. Your deed does not say property. It says vacation owner interest.
Well, I think different contracts are worded differently, but that is what the appellate court is arguing right now, is whether it is real estate or not real estate. Because in the case of our Maui timeshare, it was Unit 58. We had to check in August 13th every year. You could see, feel, and touch it. That was arguably real estate, even though it's 1 week a year. But when we get into these non-deeded right-to-use points, and Blue Green was sued in 2015. The case settled where they were forced to remove foreclosure from 11,000 accounts and not call a default of foreclosure going forward, which was pretty remarkable because some of the Blue Green are deeds. So, Judy, I'd like to we have about 5 minutes left.
Let's recap.
Yeah, let's recap. So, Judy, first of all, I want to thank you for being on this show. What was how do you feel before you reached out to TARDA? I believe that one of the leaders of the Blue Green group referred you to me, or I referred you to her maybe. How are you feeling now compared to before when not having any support?
That's the key word. Now I feel like there's some support. It's just it goes on. It goes on and on and on. You call and you get referred, and you call and you get referred. That's the part that you guys don't have any control over, but that's the hardest part for me right now, is like, I'm ready for it to be over with. I want it done. And it's not in my time, obviously. It's going to be in somebody else's timing, but the group itself, I think, is amazing. I feel like I've developed some friendships, and I feel, even though I've not met them personally, one-on-one, but I feel like I've got support. I feel like there's people that I can call and say, now what do I do? And I feel like I can get some honest answers. Nobody asked for money up front. I think that was the key thing to me, because everywhere you go, if you call, well, you're going to have to pay $200 to come into the office. You're going to have to pay, you're going to have to pay, you're going to have to pay. And with you all, I feel like I've had support.
Well, and you have also been diagnosed with Parkinson's, correct?
Yes, I have.
You gave me permission to share that. And yes, we do ask for donations. We're all volunteer, but we have insurance premiums we have to pay, and website costs. And although our webmaster has been donating it, we still, but it's certainly suggested. We don't hound anyone for it. And we don't even talk about it when timeshare is in your rearview mirror. If you can find it in your heart to make a donation, we appreciate it. So Diana, I suspect we're going to have you on as a follow-up guest, since you have you're now scheduled for a Wednesday meeting, correct? And you're hoping that, and you did say you had a positive experience when you did speak to the Wyndham representative, correct?
Yes. I felt like she too is a widow, so I felt like she understood, what that is like. So she was very easy to talk to. I just explained to her, as she knew, when you lose your husband, you're just trying to get your footing, like your whole world has kind of been knocked off its axis. And when he was sick, he said, I just want the cancer to go away, and I want Wyndham to go away. He grieved both of those. And I said, well, the cancer did go away ultimately, but it took him with him, So it's just me here trying to go forward and kind of, finish what he wanted to go away. Because he was concerned for the children, and that's what they scared him with.
On top of the chemotherapy treatments that he was undergoing. And I'm sorry, Sandra, we weren't able to hear from her directly, but I'm really grateful that she was here today to listen to both of your stories. I have said that I've had my own pain and suffering with some consequences of taking this on and forming our nonprofit, but I have made some friendships and relationships that are just the best, that people I've known since 2016 and 2017. Facebook does those memories and someone just posted, this is your memory from 2017, and it was someone that had reached out to me. And we're always looking for volunteers. So I sort of sneak it in. Diana, would you like to meet Judy? And then, so in the future, when someone comes up that's going through something with Blue Green or Wyndham, and you've been able to resolve it, to be able to tell them, here's someone that hung in there, and they're here to support you. So, and Kimberly, you and Nick and Sean and Mark and everybody behind the scenes, we just really thank you from our depths.
Well, we love you. We love what's happening.
Thank you very much.
Please continue to support tarda.org. Join us every week. We also run reruns at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. on Amazon and Roku on our Pod TV Live. We look forward to seeing you guys and hearing from you next week. Thank you.
Thank you all.